The Johnston family conflict has just reached a completely different level. And if you thought the tension was bad before, you are not prepared for what is happening now. For the longest time, the narrative surrounding the family centered entirely on Anna and her increasingly strained relationship with her parents, Amber and Trent. It was a dynamic we all watched unfold, and many assumed it was just a typical, albeit intense, parent-child struggle for independence and boundaries. But that is where things took a shocking turn. Anna is no longer simply dealing with tension with Amber and Trent. The conflict has officially spilled over, and in a devastating twist, Alex and Emma are now seemingly deeply involved in the drama. The family recently gathered for a reunion dinner, an event that Anna supposedly expected would be a chance to finally repair the fractured relationships. She likely walked into that room looking for a fresh start, hoping to put the past behind them. Instead, she faced severe criticism, and it did not just come from her parents. It came directly from her own siblings. Things got so heated that Alex apparently issued a shocking ultimatum, showing a willingness to just walk away from the dinner entirely rather than hear her out. It was a heartbreaking scene that left viewers stunned and asking one very important question. Were Alex and Emma genuinely defending their family because they felt personally wronged? Or had they been pulled into Amber and Trent's side of the conflict? To really understand how the family arrived at this devastating standoff, we have to look back at the growing distance between Anna and the rest of the Johnston family. This did not just happen overnight. For years, viewers have watched as Anna's relationship with her family became increasingly complicated and fractured. At the center of this family dynamic, of course, are Amber and Trent. As the parents, they have always set the tone for the household, establishing strict expectations and rules that all the kids were expected to follow without question. But Anna has always been a bit of a free spirit, someone who pushes back, asks questions, and tries to carve out her own independent path. That drive for independence has naturally led to friction. Over time, that friction slowly turned into a noticeable, heavy distance. It is crucial to understand that this current disagreement is not about one isolated incident. We are not looking at a single argument that suddenly blew up out of nowhere on a random Tuesday. Instead, what we are witnessing is the boiling point of several smaller disagreements that appear to have accumulated over a very long time. Every misunderstood comment, every missed expectation, every silent treatment, and every clash of personalities has been quietly piling up in the background for years. And this is exactly why the reunion dinner was supposed to be so incredibly important. It was not just a casual, everyday meal. It was a high-stakes gathering where everyone arrived carrying mountains of emotional baggage. What looks on the surface like a petty argument over one single missed event actually represents years of unresolved family tension finally exploding into the open. The specific event that allegedly triggered this latest massive confrontation revolves around a major family milestone. Anna missed an important graduation-related event, and in the Johnston household, missing a milestone is not something that gets brushed under the rug. You can easily see why Amber, Trent, Alex, and Emma could have viewed Anna's absence as a major, heartbreaking disappointment. Graduation is a huge deal. It is a rare time for the family to come together, take photos, and celebrate a significant, hard-earned achievement. To Amber, Trent, and especially the younger siblings, her not being there might have felt like a direct, intentional message that she did not care. They may have felt that she was consciously prioritizing her own life and her own schedule over her family's most important moments. It is easy to understand how deeply that kind of absence stings. But let us look at this from Anna's possible perspective, because there is always more than one side to every story, especially in this family. From Anna's point of view, missing one single event does not necessarily mean she does not love or care about her siblings. Life gets messy, circumstances unexpectedly arise, and sometimes people simply cannot be in two places at once, no matter how hard they try. To Anna, it might have been an unfortunate scheduling conflict or an honest mistake, not a malicious boycott of her siblings' achievements. Realizing that her family was deeply hurt, Anna reportedly attempted to apologize and repair the situation. She tried to extend an olive branch to make things right. But this is where the situation gets even more complicated, and frankly, a lot more tragic. The apology apparently did not end the argument at all. In fact, it seemed to have the exact opposite effect. Instead of accepting the apology and figuring out a way to move forward, the family allegedly used the opportunity to continue raising additional grievances. It was as if the apology opened a floodgate. Suddenly, she wasn't just in trouble for missing the graduation, she was on trial for every perceived mistake she had ever made. The real issue may not have been the graduation at all. The graduation may simply have become the latest, most convenient example used to support a much bigger, deeply rooted argument against Anna. This brings us directly to the family reunion dinner, a scene that felt less like a gathering of loved ones and more like an emotional showdown. If you were tuning in, you might have expected a peaceful family gathering, maybe a little awkward tension at first, but ultimately a scene of reconciliation and healing. After all, dinners are usually where families break bread, let down their guards, and find common ground. But the tension quickly built around Anna the moment everyone sat down. The atmosphere was incredibly thick, and it was not long before the pleasantries dissolved completely. Alex and Emma allegedly took it upon themselves to confront Anna over her absence at the graduation event. Let's just slow down for a second and really think about the awkwardness and the heavy weight of that moment. Imagine sitting at a table with the people you have known your entire life, the people who are supposed to have your back no matter what, and feeling completely surrounded by disappointment. Anna's attempts to apologize completely failed to calm the situation down. The conversation became increasingly uncomfortable, shifting rapidly from a mild disagreement to a direct, painful confrontation. There is a very specific, profound emotional impact that comes from being criticized by your siblings rather than strangers or even your parents. Siblings are supposed to be your built-in best friends, the people who understand you better than anyone else because they grew up in the exact same environment. To have Alex and Emma looking across the table, firing off criticisms and refusing to accept her apology had to be incredibly isolating for Anna. The dinner quickly escalated, building toward Alex's most shocking moment of the entire evening. Right there at the table, he threatened to leave the dinner entirely. It was a massive escalation that left everyone stunned. Focusing specifically on Alex's apparent threat to walk away, we have to recognize why this single moment was so incredibly significant. Alex has historically been seen by fans as one of the quieter, more easygoing members of the Johnston family. He usually avoids the absolute center of the drama. So for him to stand up and issue an ultimatum, threatening to pack up and leave a family dinner because he was so upset with Anna, is a massive turning point in the family dynamic. It forces us to ask what was really going through his mind in that exact moment. Was Alex simply frustrated because he felt his sister was being stubborn? Or was he intentionally trying to pressure Anna into a corner? Did he genuinely believe that Anna was refusing to take responsibility for her actions, and his only recourse was to physically remove himself from her presence? When you contrast Alex's reaction with what viewers might typically expect from a younger sibling during a family disagreement, it is quite jarring. Usually, a younger sibling might express annoyance, roll their eyes, or perhaps stay quiet while the parents handle the discipline. But Alex took on an authoritative, aggressive role here, driving the conflict forward himself. It is truly astonishing to see how quickly a disagreement about one single missed event appeared to become a much larger, relationship-threatening family confrontation. Was Alex standing up for Amber and Trent because he genuinely agreed with their assessment of Anna? Or was he reacting emotionally under the extreme pressure of a divided household? This single, explosive moment may have unintentionally revealed just how deeply the ongoing family conflict has affected the younger siblings, pulling them out of their roles as innocent bystanders and forcing them directly onto the battlefield. And Alex was not the only one stepping onto that battlefield. We have to look very closely at Emma's role in all of this, because giving Emma her own storyline instead of just treating her as a background character is essential to grasping the full tragedy of this situation. Emma's active involvement in the dinner confrontation added an entirely different layer of sorrow to the evening. Her position in this complicated family dynamic has to be incredibly difficult to navigate right now, mainly because she is firmly caught right in the middle, sandwiched between her parents' strong, unyielding personalities and her older sister's ongoing battle for independence. Emma has always been someone who seemingly values peace, so seeing her take a more confrontational stance is jarring. During the chaotic dinner, fans immediately noticed how Emma positioned herself, leading many viewers to interpret her behavior as directly taking Amber's side against Anna. But we have to ask ourselves, what is really driving her actions? Was Emma truly expressing her own personal, deeply felt frustration over the missed graduation event? Or was she simply repeating the arguments, the grievances, and the exact talking points she had already heard echoing around the house from other family members? There is a massive emotional difference between quietly disagreeing with your sister privately in a safe space and choosing to confront her publicly during a highly charged family gathering. It makes you wonder what her true intentions were. Did Emma actually want to attack Anna and make her feel alienated at that table? Or was she just overwhelmed, exhausted by the constant tension in the house, and simply wanted the ongoing family conflict to finally come to a definitive end by forcing Anna to submit? Emma's willingness to engage in the confrontation could reveal a very sad truth. The family disagreement is no longer limited to just Anna and her parents. It may now be actively bleeding into and influencing the fragile relationships between all the siblings, fundamentally changing how they interact with each other. This heartbreaking shift brings us to a highly controversial interpretation that has been driving massive debates across the internet. Are Alex and Emma slowly becoming Amber's agents? Now, we have to present this fan theory very carefully, rather than stating it as a proven, undeniable fact. But it is absolutely a conversation that is currently dominating the fan base. Many viewers watched that tense reunion dinner and could not shake the lingering feeling that Alex and Emma appeared to be acting as direct defenders of Amber's position. There is a rapidly growing perception that the younger siblings were essentially acting as messengers or enforcers during the confrontation, delivering the parents' arguments so Amber and Trent did not have to take on all the negativity themselves. We have to examine this fairly and logically. Were Alex and Emma independently furious with Anna for missing a family milestone? Or were they simply reinforcing their parents' incredibly high expectations just to stay in Amber and Trent's good graces and avoid becoming the next targets of family scrutiny? The reality is, unless the family sits down and directly explains their private, internal motivations, viewers cannot ever know for absolutely sure what is going on in their heads. However, there may be another side to this story. It is entirely possible that Alex and Emma genuinely felt hurt by Anna's absence and were speaking strictly for themselves from a place of real independent pain. When looking at this complex dynamic, it is so important to create a balanced debate rather than making a wild, unsupported accusation against the siblings. Throughout this controversy, we have to always distinguish between what viewers actually saw happen on screen, what passionate fans believe is happening behind closed doors, and what can actually be confirmed as absolute fact. But regardless of what the confirmed facts might be, the fan backlash exploded online almost immediately after the dinner aired. The transition from the deeply uncomfortable family gathering to the fierce, fiery reaction from viewers was instantaneous. Social media platforms completely lit up with intense criticism directed straight toward Alex and Emma. People are dissecting every single word, every eye roll, and every tense sigh from that dinner, trying to figure out who is truly to blame. For a long time, the younger siblings were largely protected from the brunt of harsh viewer criticism, viewed mostly as the innocent younger kids. But that protective shield completely shattered after this specific confrontation. A massive portion of the fan base firmly believes that Anna was treated horribly and unfairly cornered by her own family. They see a young woman who made a mistake, tried to apologize, and was practically interrogated by her own blood in response. The online debate surrounding the younger siblings' behavior has been absolutely relentless. But on the flip side, we have to explore the opposing argument because there are absolutely viewers who believe Anna needed a serious wake-up call. They argue that Anna needed to finally accept real responsibility for repeatedly disappointing the family, and that missing the graduation event was just the final, unavoidable straw. To truly understand why this situation is so incredibly divisive, you have to look at the three main camps forming in the fan debate. Side A strongly argues that Anna was unfairly ambushed at a dinner she thought was for healing, and that she deserves our absolute empathy because she is being pushed out. Then you have side B, who argue that Anna's repeated actions have created legitimate, undeniable frustration, and that Alex and Emma were completely entitled to express their hurt feelings, regardless of how uncomfortable it made everyone at the table. And finally, you have side C, who argue that the siblings fighting is just a symptom of a larger disease. Side C believes the deeper problem is the parents' overwhelming influence over the younger siblings, and the family's complete inability to resolve their conflicts privately, without turning every single disagreement into a spectacular, dramatic showdown for everyone to judge. And just when you think this family dynamic could not possibly get any more fragile, a major life change is about to throw everything into even more chaos. Alex is officially leaving for Ohio, and honestly, the timing could not possibly be worse for the family's stability. Alex is making this massive move to be closer to his girlfriend Allie, which is a huge, exciting step for him personally. Ohio is not just a different state. It represents a completely different world for Alex, far away from the camera lights and the constant family meetings. But when you look at it through the lens of the current family crisis, it adds a completely new layer of anxiety to the entire situation. Moving away to an entirely different state will naturally create significantly more physical distance between all the siblings. When you are living under the same roof, or at least in the same town, there are always natural opportunities to bump into each other, talk things out, and slowly mend fences. But when you are hundreds of miles away, communication has to be incredibly intentional. And if the relationship is currently strained, that communication often just stops altogether. You have to wonder whether this massive move will finally give Alex some much-needed independence from the tightly controlled family unit. Will stepping away from Amber and Trent's immediate, everyday orbit allow him to breathe and form his own opinions? It raises a huge question. Could this intense physical distance eventually calm the conflict down by simply removing him from the daily drama? Or will it make the already strained family relationships even weaker as they drift apart? There is a heartbreaking irony here. Just as Alex is beginning an exciting, brand new chapter of his life, stepping confidently into his own future as an adult, his relationship with his older sister Anna appears to be under the most serious strain it has ever faced. You have to explore whether leaving home, packing his bags, and building a completely separate life in Ohio could eventually allow Alex to look back and see the family conflict from a completely different perspective. Physical distance has a funny way of sometimes completely changing how we view family dynamics. Alex leaving home could either permanently widen the emotional gap between him and Anna, making it impossible to ever truly reconnect, or it could give absolutely everyone involved enough space to finally take a deep breath, step back, and rethink the entire devastating situation before it is too late to fix. And while Alex's physical move to Ohio is certainly a massive shift, Emma's own highly anticipated journey toward true independence could very well become the next major storyline that completely reshapes this family. Right now, we are watching Emma slowly begin to struggle with the exact same transition into adulthood that Anna faced just a few years ago. Family conflict can become incredibly complicated and sometimes incredibly painful when children first begin building real lives entirely outside the safety of the family home. As Emma starts making her own decisions and establishing her own boundaries, you have to ask whether she will continue strictly following the family's long-held expectations or if she will eventually summon the courage to establish her own unique position. Right now, it looks like she is standing firmly with her parents, but as she gets older and experiences more of the real world on her own terms, her perspective could drastically shift. Could she eventually reach a point where she decides to reconnect with Anna privately, far away from the cameras and the intense scrutiny of the dinner table? The future holds a fascinating twist here. The siblings may appear completely divided and hopelessly fractured today, but changing circumstances, new relationships, and newfound maturity could completely reshape who stands with whom in the future. Today's alliances are never guaranteed to be permanent. But all of this speculation about the future forces us to finally step back from the chaos of that specific dinner and examine the overall family dynamic with a much wider lens, asking the biggest, most heartbreaking question of all. Is Anna really, genuinely being pushed out of the Johnston family entirely? When you take a step back from the individual arguments and the heated dinner confrontations, the larger picture looks incredibly grim. We have to seriously ask whether Anna is slowly but surely becoming permanently estranged from the siblings she once shared everything with. Estrangement is a heavy, terrifying word, but the reality is that repeated, unresolved confrontations can slowly and methodically destroy even the strongest family relationships. It is vital to remember that family estrangement rarely ever happens simply because of one big, explosive argument. People do not usually walk away from their families forever over a single missed graduation party. Instead, you have to look at how a long history of missed milestones, silent resentment, rejected apologies, harsh accusations, and vastly different unresolved expectations can silently build into a wall of permanent distance. When the dust finally settles, we really have to ask whether the Johnston family has tragically reached the tipping point where true reconciliation will require significantly more than just another awkward dinner. Anna may not simply be losing an argument about a scheduling conflict anymore. The true emotional angle here is far more devastating. She may actually be losing her permanent place within the family dynamic, shifting from a central part of the sibling group to a complete outsider looking in. To understand if this can ever be fixed, we have to look closely at the missing piece of this entire puzzle, which is asking what Anna actually wants from her family moving forward. Does she actually want their forgiveness for missing the graduation? Or is she tired of always feeling like she needs to apologize? Does she simply want complete independence to live her life without constant judgment? Or does she still desperately want her younger siblings to finally understand her side of the story? Or, perhaps more simply than all of that, does she just want the family to finally stop turning every minor disagreement into another massive, emotionally draining confrontation? There is a very strong possibility that Anna and the rest of the family may have completely, fundamentally different ideas about what reconciliation actually means. To Amber, Trent, Alex, and Emma, fixing the relationship might mean Anna fully admitting she was wrong, changing her behavior, and conforming to their specific expectations. But to Anna, fixing the relationship might mean her family finally accepting her exactly as she is, flaws and all, without requiring her to constantly prove her loyalty. We have to remember that a simple apology only works when both sides are genuinely willing to drop the weapons and move forward together. The biggest, most complicated problem in the Johnston family may not be that Anna stubbornly refuses to change her ways. It may actually be that absolutely nobody in the family currently agrees on what fixing the relationship actually looks like in the real world. Despite all the hurt, the accusations, and the overwhelming tension, we cannot forget the most basic truth at the center of this story. Alex, Emma, and Anna are still siblings, despite absolutely everything that has happened between them. The bond of growing up together is incredibly difficult to break entirely, and we have to discuss whether the simple passage of time could eventually soften the intense, burning resentment we saw at that dinner table. Time heals a lot of wounds, but time combined with space might be exactly what they need. We have to consider whether Alex's upcoming move to Ohio could finally create the necessary breathing room the family desperately needs to cool down. Furthermore, we must consider whether Emma's increasing, inevitable independence could completely change her perspective on her older sister's struggles. For any kind of real, lasting reconciliation to happen, it would likely require Alex, Emma, and Anna to sit down and have deeply honest, completely unguarded conversations, without their parents or any other family members present to influence the discussion. The ultimate test will be whether the family can eventually manage to separate the individual sibling relationships from the much larger, deeply entrenched conflict involving Amber and Trent. If they can untangle those two completely different dynamics, there might still be hope. But looking at where things stand right now, you have to bring all of the major, overwhelming developments together to see the full scope of this tragedy. Anna was already dealing with an incredible amount of family tension long before this latest explosion. The graduation incident appears to have intensified that existing conflict to an absolute breaking point. Her sincere attempt to apologize completely failed to resolve the disagreement, and instead, the reunion dinner tragically became a full-blown confrontation. We watched in disbelief as Alex reportedly threatened to just walk away from the table entirely, drawing a firm line in the sand. Emma also appeared to firmly side against Anna, leaving her completely isolated. Fans immediately began questioning whether the younger siblings were actually acting independently or if they were just blindly following the family's larger, established position against her. Now, Alex's upcoming move to Ohio could quickly create even more physical and emotional distance between them. Meanwhile, Emma's growing independence could eventually change her relationship with Anna, for better or for worse. And hanging over all of this chaos, the biggest, most heartbreaking question remains whether this is just a temporary, albeit explosive, family fight, or the undeniable beginning of a permanent estrangement that will change their lives forever. The Johnston family may still be together physically, but emotionally, the siblings could be further apart than ever. So what do you think really happened here? Were Alex and Emma simply defending their family because they genuinely felt hurt by Anna? Or did they cross the line by turning against their own sister? And do you think Anna can repair her relationship with Alex and Emma? Or has this family conflict gone too far? Tell me whose side you're on in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more Johnston family updates.